Hello, the last Wednesday of 2022, December the 28th. Just a short greeting uh, with the Bible scripture, of course, to you today. I find myself at this time of year in reflection, a little bit of reflection, thinking about the year in review, so to speak, but also thinking about the year coming. Because in just 3 days, we're celebrating the new year. And whatever that brings. And so I heard someone say something along this order that every year you get a fresh start. Well, that is a mindset, and it's not a bad one. I think that's a good mindset. For some of us, we could use a restart. Some of us have had a tough year. Others have had a really great year and maybe not so sure we want it to come to an end. And then there are those that are kind of in between those two mindsets. In either event, in 3 days' time, we have a new year. So we're another trip around the sun. The world just keeps going and marching forward. Now, I wanted to share something about a beginning from Exodus chapter 12, and we're going to look at the second verse and maybe a little more, but particularly the second verse. Now, to give you a little bit of context of this passage, God is speaking to Aaron and Moses in Egypt. Moses has come back to Egypt, and upon God's command, go back to Egypt. He's there. He has already been dealing with Pharaoh, and many, like 9 of the plagues of Egypt, have come and gone, and they're coming up on the 10th and final plague of Egypt. And the Lord tells Moses and Aaron that there's a new beginning here. This month, I'm reading from the King James Version right now. He says, "This month shall be unto you the beginning of months." So it's the beginning of a year. It's the first month of the year. God is setting up what we know today as the Hebrew calendar. He is telling them this is the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. A new beginning. They were going to have a new beginning on many fronts, but this was going to be the beginning, the very first month. Start counting from here, the Lord is saying to them. What they didn't know was in a couple of weeks, they were going to be, less than 2 weeks, they were going to be heading out away from Egypt. And sometime, just a few days after their beginning of their journey, they're going to be facing an even larger obstacle and stressor than they've ever imagined until now. And that is the crossing of the Red Sea. And if you haven't read that, you should read that passage in the book of Exodus. But God is demonstrating to them that He is God. And He's more powerful than all the gods of Egypt. Basically, I'm summing it up in a very small amount here. Basically, the 10 plagues of Egypt were direct affronts to the various Egyptian gods. We can get more into that some other day in the future if we do a major Bible study on the 10 plagues specifically. I don't have that scheduled right now, but it's something we could do. in the future. Having said that, the Hebrews, the Jews, living in Egypt for 430 years thus far, the people that Moses is talking to, they don't know anything but life in Egypt as a slave. They were not born free, neither were their parents or their grandparents. You have to go back 5, 6, 7 generations to get to the folks that came to Egypt willingly when Joseph was in Egypt. And you can read that in the book of Genesis, the last several chapters. Nevertheless, all they knew was the Egyptians and the Egyptian influence of their gods. And God is showing them they're not gods, but that He is the God, the one and only God. And He's way more powerful than anything they have imagined. And so one by one, He ticks off the major Egyptian gods, and then they're going to be facing the Red Sea and a mountain on each side and the Egyptian army coming behind them. And as of yet, they're not an army. They've not been trained. They have no skill in warfare. And they're pretty much sitting ducks. And then God opens the Red Sea, and they walk across in one night. So there's 2 miracles that happen here. Parting of the sea, obvious. That's the obvious one, and I think that's the one that everybody catches, but not many catch the second one. They made this huge crossing in one night. Now, when they get to the other side, they do a census and they count the men, and there's like 400,000 men between the age of 20 and 50 something, 20 and up. I'll just say 20 and up. So we're not counting teenagers and younger people below. They didn't count their wives. I don't know why. So if those 400,000 men, if even only 75% of them were married, that's 300,000. So add a wife for each one. And in those days, many men had more than one wife, but let's just count 1 and 1. So that's 600,000 plus the 100,000 men that we didn't count. That's 700,000. How many teenagers and kids under 10 might there be? A lot. There could be as many as 2 million people. There could be more. There could be 1.5 million. There could be, anyway, it's a lot of people. Plus they have sheep and goats and cows and camels and donkeys, chickens, no doubt. You fill in the blanks. There's a lot of stuff. They had to cross the Red Sea, and they did it in one night. And wherever you imagine they might have crossed, you can look at a map and you can try and figure that out. If you pick the narrowest point, there are no mountains up there for them to be between. So you got to scratch that off. Got to go down further south. It's so far across. There's no way you can do it in one night, especially with that many people and carts and wagons and livestock. He parted the sea, and they crossed in one night. Before the next morning, they were across. And then God closed the sea in on the Egyptian army that was trying to pursue them. And there was never a threat that the Egyptian army that they knew, the Pharaoh that they knew, would ever come after them again. It's the beginning of months for them. It's a new beginning. It's a new year. So I would say, in thinking about this year, 2022, and next year, 2023, it's not a bad idea to make some goals about the new year. Make realistic goals. Don't make unrealistic goals. Make goals that you can attain, that you can measure progress by. If you want to improve yourself physically, there's going to be so many people buying fitness equipment in the month of January, you cannot imagine. There will be so many people buying gym memberships in the month of January, you cannot imagine. And most of them will not keep or be able to keep their goals. They're unrealistic. They're making an unrealistic goal. Make something you can attain. But not just in the physical. Yes, we all could probably stand to lose a little bit of weight. I'm not necessarily referring to physical goals like that. But what about the spiritual? Have you ever read the Bible from the front to the back? If you haven't, maybe this year would be a good opportunity to read the Bible through. There are numerous methods of doing that. You can find them online, you can find them at the Bible bookstore. There are different ways, and they break up the chapters in the books so that you're not just reading Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, all the way through, one at a time, page by page, verse by verse. They kind of move around. For some people, that's the way to go. That's the way my wife likes that. Me, I like just going page by page, verse by verse, all the way, one right after the other, one right after the other. That's just kind of my thing. There are various ways. If you've never done that, maybe it's a good idea. That would be a goal that you can measure. You can see your progress. What about a goal of sharing your faith? Make it attainable. Don't say, I'm going to win 50 people to Christ this year. If you've never won anyone to Christ in your life, don't start off with a large number. Just say, perhaps, I'm going to share my faith with one person this month. And then the next month, either make the same or change your goal. Maybe it's 2 people. And the following month, maybe you stay at 2 people. Maybe you change it to 4 or 3 or whatever. Use attainable measurements. You can see it. You can see the progress. If you say, I'm going to share my faith, my testimony, or share something about Jesus, what God has done for me, with one person this month, and the month comes and goes and you haven't done it, well, you can tell. It's measurable. But if you say, I'm going to share my faith with 50 people this year, and 2 or 3 months goes by and you've only shared it with 3 people, you're going to have some trepidation about how am I going to complete this goal. Just do it little at a time. Those types of things. It doesn't have to be, your goals don't have to be what I just said, but think about it. Reflect on this year. Think about next year. Think about what's really important in life, and then make a goal, even if it's only one. Some of you are goal makers. You do it all the time. So maybe you'll set 10 or 20. I don't know, but that's up to you. But let it be the beginning of months, the first month of the year, as it were, with you. We're literally coming into our first month of the year. So that's kind of an easy one. But for Israel, everything was becoming new. They were beginning not only new lives as free people, not slaves, but new lives as a nation of people. They had to learn a lot of things. God actually gives them their structure of laws. And it's not just spiritual laws. There's a whole lot of physical laws in there. Literally. The beginning of months. Well, as you reflect, as you think, as you make your decisions, make some goals. If you can, if you've never done it before, maybe it's a good time to start. Most of my life, I've heard of them referred to as New Year's resolutions. And almost no one in my life that I've ever known ever kept or attained their New Year's resolutions. I say almost because there were one or two. But those were people who made attainable goals. That resolution is a goal. It's an objective. If you make a realistic one, you can make it. So those of you like me who want to lose a few pounds, don't set a huge number up there and say, I'm going to lose that. Pick something that you know you can reach. And then, once you reach it, set a new one. Simple. Well, I pray God's blessings upon you all, that God would bless you, He would keep you, that He would direct your steps, that He would shine His face upon you and give you peace, and direct your path, and that you would follow His direction. That's important. Often God is directing our path and we decide we want to go another direction. As we get off out in the weeds, we get in trouble. God bless you. It's been a good year. It's been an interesting year. It's been a better year than a couple of years back. I'm looking forward to this next year with anticipation, and truly I don't know what it holds, but I know who holds the future. And I put my trust in Him. Well, God bless you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day and rest of your week. Hope to see you this Sunday, 10:30 at the Hilton True. Again, this year we're not having a New Year's Eve service like we have had in years past. We're not having one this year. And I look forward to seeing you in the new year together again. God bless you. Continue to pray for our brothers and sisters in need. Joey Aber, Bobby Pavandra, Lydia. Continue to pray for strength to my mom, Sister Justice. She would continue to be strengthened physically in her body. Please also pray for the leadership of our church, your pastors. We need your prayers. We need God to continue to direct our thoughts and ideas for the church. Pray for us. We love you all. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.